All right. All right, good evening, everyone. I call the City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, January 18th to order. This time we'll have a moment of silence to have you think about whatever it is concerning you. Please. Thank you, everyone. Alderman Cornett, will you please lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alderman Cornett. Mr. Krupp, please call the roll for tonight.
Dunn.
Here.
Kelly. McGinnis.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Grip.
Here.
Condon.
Here.
Cornett.
Here.
Dickman.
Here.
Jobson. And Ortez.
Here.
8 present, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. So again, good evening, everyone, as we begin the meeting of the City Council Committee of the Whole. Again, I'd like to welcome everybody in attendance and anybody who's viewing through any particular electronic device. We certainly respectfully welcome your opinions and comments, but please keep in mind that as you share your thoughts, you're sharing them with your fellow Davenporters and anybody throughout the region. We're happy you're participating in your city government, but please ask that your participation reflect the common desire I know we all share to make Davenport a better place. Especially for the folks in here, if you have a cell phone, as a reminder, please put it on silent or turn it off simply that it doesn't get in the way of anybody talking. If you want to address the council tonight, please come to the podium. If there's a bunch of folks on a particular item, if one wants to come up and then the next one stand by a poll, so I just know in my head that there's others that want to talk. The microphone's above you. We'd love to know your name, ward, or address, and if you're not from here, we'd love to know where you're from, and you'll have 5 minutes. We'd also ask that you address the council as a body and not as any one particular individual. We will be respectful of you. Please be respectful of us. Thank you. City Administrator, Ms. Spiegel, anything for tonight?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Very good. We have 2 public hearings this evening, one under Public Works and one under Finance. The first one under Public Works, Alderman Dunn will read that. Alderman Dunn, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Open the public hearing on the proposed resolution of necessity covering the FY 2023 alley resurfacing program. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this public hearing? Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, and this public hearing is closed, and back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. The next public hearing is under Finance. Alderman Condon and Alderman Cornett will discuss. Alderman Condon, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I open the public hearing approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the installation of multi-sports courts at Cork Hill, Harrington, and Van Buren Parks. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this public hearing? Seeing no one, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No, sorry, that closes the public hearing. Thank you.
We need a vote.
All in favor?
Oh,
Okay.
all opposed? That concludes the public hearing. Apologize.
Oh, good. Thank you, Alderman Condon. Next area, petitions, communications. Anyone from the council? Alderwoman Dickman.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everyone that partially for my other job that I'm going to be hosting some officers from our lovely police department for a listening session up at the Carroll Center at 4 o'clock on January 31st. If you want to come on by, we'd love to have you for a good conversation about what we're hoping to see as we move forward. Thanks, bye.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dickman. Anyone else? And I just want to say thanks again to the staff for last night and to the council. We had a discussion about the operating budget. We'll have a discussion about the capital budget Saturday, so I appreciate everybody that came and participated and know that the city's, at least the operating side, you'll hear about the capital on Saturday, is in a good position. It's stable. The financial situation for the city is good. So thank you, everyone, for that participation. All right, we'll move on to action items for discussion. We have 4 areas: community development, public safety, public works, and finance. The first area will be community development. Alderman Grip and Alderwoman Lee will discuss. Alderman Grip, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I open the discussion for community development this evening with item number 1, which is a third consideration ordinance for case REZ 22-07, being the request of High Properties on behalf of Shamrock Properties LC to rezone approximately 104.57 acres of land bound by Veterans Memorial Parkway, Eastern Avenue, Interstate 80, and Jersey Ridge Road from S8G Agricultural District to R1 Single Family Residential District, R4 Single Family and 2 Family Residential District, RMF Multifamily Residential District, and C2 Corridor Commercial District. Is there anyone from the public who's here to comment on this item? Seeing no one, any from the council? Alderwoman Lee.
Thank you very much. Next week, I will be offering a very simple amendment that clarifies the fourth condition on this about the roundabout and who is responsible for funding and building it. So we'll have that next week. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Seeing none, item number 1 will stay on discussion for next week. Item number 2 is a third consideration ordinance for case ROW 22-05, being the request of Corn Belt Capital LLC to vacate unimproved right-of-way located south of Research Parkway and to the west of Interstate 80 Airport Industrial Park 12th Edition. Anyone from the council or from the public who's here to comment on this item? Any comments from the council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 3 is a second consideration ordinance for case REZ 22-08, being the request of Ecumenical Housing Development Group to rezone 1112 Bridge Avenue from R4C Single Family and 2 Family Central Residential District to RMF Multifamily Residential District. Do we have anyone from the public who's here to comment on this item? Please step to the lectern, state your name and address or ward, please.
Hello. My name is Carol Dowd. My husband Marshall and I live at 812 Bridge Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak once again about our concerns regarding the rezoning request for the property at 1112 Bridge Avenue. We are concerned that introducing more high-density dwellings in this area would potentially destabilize the neighborhood that we, along with our neighbors, have worked so long and hard to revitalize and stabilize. We are concerned that approving this rezoning request would set a very bad precedent moving forward when other development entities seek to follow this same path. This rezoning request has sparked great interest in the community, and the process is being followed very closely by reading the newspaper, watching the news, and by viewing the council videos. Marshall and I are also concerned about the long-term negative impact in the event this property changed ownerships. What would stop the new owners from adding even more than 3 units? This concern became intensified when Plan and Zoning recommended granting approval for 4 units when Ecumenical Housing requested 3. The justification was so they could provide flexibility to Ecumenical Housing. Lastly, we are concerned that allowing the rezoning from R4C to RMF would begin to erode all of the time, work, and money expended in the major rezoning of Davenport completed in 2019. Many of you were in office during this tedious process. We attended many meetings and presentations, exchanged emails with Matt Flynn, Bruce Berger, our aldermen, and others, as well as reviewed all the proposed zoning changes to make sure each one would help meet our neighborhood goal of continuing the revitalization and stabilization process. We considered the resulting rezoning plan to be a covenant with the city of Davenport, and this covenant made us feel that our investment in our home, neighborhood, and community would be preserved and protected. The question begs to be asked, why did the city of Davenport go to all the trouble and expense of completing this enormous rezoning process only to dismantle it later? We have carefully taken into consideration the goals of all the parties involved in this rezoning request, Ecumenical Housing Development Group's goal is to provide affordable rental housing in the QC. The neighborhood's goal is to continue the revitalization and stabilization process in part by limiting the number of multifamily dwellings. The City of Davenport has many goals, including creating and maintaining safe and healthy neighborhoods because they are the foundation of our community. In addition, the City of Davenport strives to work with neighborhood leaders and property owners to make Davenport a welcoming place to live. We propose to you that the action which would help all the parties involved to achieve its goals would be for you to say yes to 2 units and no to 3 units. This would be beneficial to us all. Ecumenical Housing would be able to provide affordable housing units. Our neighborhood would be able to advance the revitalization and stabilization process, and the City of Davenport would be able to help maintain a safe and healthy neighborhood, all while being in compliance with the current R4C zoning, and the zoning covenant would not be broken. We respectfully ask you to deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for ward, please.
Yes, my name is Jesse Yates, and I'm from 1008 Mississippi Avenue, in Davenport here, and it's in the 5th Ward. And I apologize, I've provided you with 2 handouts. I had the assumption that I would be able to use the projector, and I'm going to reference both, so I do apologize in that advance. But there is a set of slides that I'll be taking my notes from. So if you go to the slides, the first page of the slide, I really want to provide you guys context of our neighborhood. This is our neighborhood. The little orange dot is the property that we're talking about, 1112 Bridge Avenue. You also find out the printout, a small excerpt of the printout of the staff's recommendations that I'll reference to in this presentation. So allow me, I'm going to go to the second slide. Allow me a few moments to talk a little bit about the importance of the C. It is to protect and preserve and provide new development standards for the center city, right? And so notice if multifamily does not include those words. We know protect, preserve, and standard were purposeful. Sure, the intent of all of the purpose statements for the zoning includes all of that, right? But here, the group that worked on this zoning ordinance and you, the council, approved these words, right? They were purposeful. They wrote these 3 words out and they put 4 pages of standards in to protect and preserve that, right? So if you took, it took a lot to put C together. Shouldn't the burden be pretty high to remove it? Item A on the amendment, on the standards, approval standards, talks about the consistency of the proposed amendment with comprehensive plan. Staff comments the comprehensive plan is not impacted by the zoning change, and in this case, but states the neighborhood is expected to maintain their current mix and density. Our position is staying 4C requires no zoning change, no changes to mix, no changes to density, so staying 4C also meets this requirement. A few things that are in common with all the zoning requirements are on on slide 3. On this slide, we're showing the multifamily versus 4C, and it's referencing the zoning dimensional standards, right? And so I'd like to take a look at item C, compatibility of the established neighborhood character. The recommendation is to restrict the height from 70 feet to 35 feet. The property is already 4C, and it's already restricted to 35 feet. No change required. We would think that would be very consistent with the established compatibility of the neighborhood. Item D and E promotes the public health, safety, welfare of the city and the suitability of the property for its purpose. The recommendation focuses on removing the non-residential use, moving to multifamily, which fits a neighborhood with the restriction of 4 units versus 13 units. Our position is the property was purchased as 4C, meets the requirements just by staying 4C, and a 2-family unit also removes the non-residential use mentioned before. It protects the density and mix better than changing the zone from multi to multifamily with restrictions. Staff states on item F, staff states that there is no other nonconformities with the multifamily. I need to be really careful here, and I know this, but the digital measurements online and taking a tape measure to the property would indicate there may be a front standoff and a corner side street standoff variance needed. It does meet all the Forest Study requirements as it sits today, based on that same measurement system. If you go to the last slide, this is the most important one. So, and you've heard this reference, since 1990, you see all the orange dots? Those are houses that have moved from multifamily to R4, right? And some of those went from multifamily to single family, right? And some of those went, actually a few of them went from multifamily to duplex, right? So meeting the characteristics of the neighborhood that's been established. So in addressing item B, which is the compatibility of the zoning of the nearby property, was the momentum of how this neighborhood has been changed through a lot of hard work that's already been referenced today considered. Staff used the neighboring multifamily units as a basis for saying that this could fit within the compatibility and go to multifamily. If this goes through, 112 Bridge starts the slippery slope because it will be referenced in other zoning considerations as multifamily. And that would cause maybe a spread of multifamily in the area. Another dangerous, most importantly, it does it in an area where we've got the C designation, right? The C designation is there to protect, preserve, and provide standards for the center. So I've run out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address or ward, please.
Mike Miller, 902 Bridge, in 3. First, I want to remove a misconception that I think a lot of people have developed about our group. We are not saying no to any affordable housing on that property. We are saying yes to 2 and no to 3. We're okay with affordable housing and with 2 families as it is presently. We're against zoning changes to the multifamily. The reason is that we recognize that this spot zoning change opens the door to more spot zoning change. It will open the door to out-of-town investors to swallow up properties as they go into market and convert them to multifamily instead of leaving them as they are. This would not be to improve the area, but to make money off the area. And the area would go into a slow slide downwards. This has already begun with the purchase of 2 houses, one at 908 Bridge by a group in Washington, and one across the street that's going to be RF, I forget what it's called, but it's at Bridge and 9th Street. I previously told you about how far down this area had been when I was a kid, and it was a terrible, terrible area down there. Our only concern is it does not backslide into the impoverished area it once was. In 2005, the city of Davenport was acknowledged as a Preserve America city. We want to follow along with that, with the city of Davenport's acceptance of the policies of Preserve America. We believe that doing this spot zoning directly opposes your own acceptance of these policies. Now here's a question about adequate supply of affordable housing in our area. Do we need more affordable housing area here? We now have a 4-story, 180-unit apartment complex going in a few blocks away from our street. They're the brick apartments just across the street from this particular site. At 1004 through 1020 Oneida, there's 2 4-plexes and a 5-plex. There's a brick apartment building on 903 Oneida. 908, again on Bridge, is a 7-unit apartment building. The 4 units at 1215 through 1219 College, those are all of these places are affordable housing. Near the 180-unit complex, there are many new Habitat for Humanity houses. We seem to be very well loaded up. It may be interesting to find out what percentage of affordable housing is located in our area compared to other areas of the city, and determine if or if not, they should be spread out around all districts of Davenport. Right now, you're looking at a new residential area built out by Veterans Memorial Parkway. Be a perfect time to put a lot of affordable housing in that area. Another question I have is, why is it of the utmost importance to EH to add 1 unit to this property? It's not because we need 1 more unit in our area. We have a lot of affordable housing. But it does mean that we'll get a large amount of funds from the government and tax credits. In other words, this is not about housing, it's about money. All the facts point to this. They've even said that they need this one to get their funding. The change will allow up to 14 units on the property, even though it's presently restricted to 3. In time, all they would have to do is apply to remove the present 3 restriction and not change the zoning. And they could build up to 14 units. Now, it's my understanding they have budgeted $600,000 for construction on this property. That sounds like a lot more than converting 2 units to 3 units with parking. If you vote yes on this, you'll be breaking a bond that you and the city went into with the homeowners in this district many years ago. A bond that the homeowners have lived up to. And the city, until this moment, has enforced the restrictions on the homeowners. You will be satisfying the needs of one property owner to the detriment of all of the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address or ward, please.
Sure. My name is Lamar Bucklew, 3rd Ward. I appreciate again the opportunity to come and speak with you again tonight on this issue and to speak with you about the reason I'm opposing the rezoning of this property as we've been speaking of. One of the things I thought about is last week when we were speaking, or after we were speaking, a comment was made about, well, you know, would you be happy with another use of that property perhaps happening, you know, there? Would you be okay with that? And it got me to thinking about looking at, well, what could be there then? And I went and looked in the code. And if you look at the matrix of what's allowed in R4C or R4 versus RMF, and there's a lot of things that are allowed in both, but there are a few things that are allowed in RMF that are not allowed in R4. Those things are a domestic violence shelter, public safety facility, residential care facility, children's home, or daycare center. Those are very noble and needed items as well in the city. So there's nothing about any of these particular things that's a negative. It's just that I'm pointing out that by changing from R4C to RMF, then now you're changing to where these additional uses of this property are also allowed now as well. They're not allowed under R4, only under RMF. So the question then that I have is, if the need for ecumenical housing of Bettendorf is for just one more unit, then could this property be zoned R4C with exceptions and not RMF with restrictions? This would prevent the possibility of then these other uses occurring in this property in the future. Our preferred option would be that Ecumenical Housing of Bettendorf would draw their petition and seek to add an additional unit somewhere else, because they've already said that this project is a very large project, 20-something, I don't know the specific number, properties. It's a lot of money involved. But could they not simply add another unit in another area that's properly zoned MF? So then you would still have the 2 units there, and we're perfectly fine with that. No opposition there. But the backup option number 2 would be an amendment to change the scope from MF to R4C, but they would still include any of those the height restrictions that we've talked about earlier and prevent them from building a new structure. If it stays R4C, then it will continue into the future as R4C, and that would prevent additional units from being added when the 15-year time frame expires. So if the true goal of Ecumenical Housing of Bettendorf is to simply have one additional unit, then this fallback option would allow them to do that. But if their true goal is to get the MF zone so that they can access the federal grant money that they're seeking, then it's not necessarily intended to add one additional unit for moderate income housing. We respectfully request that Ecumenical Housing of Bettendorf withdraw their petition to change the zoning to RMF, which opens it up to other uses as defined in the zoning code, and to simply add on an additional unit to some other of their many projects in Davenport where it's properly zoned as RMF already. And then this would allow, as it was said earlier, would be allowed to say yes to 2 units, but no to 3. So that's all I have for this evening. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Please state your name and address or ward, please.
Hello, my name is Karen Miranda. My home's located at 920 Bridge Avenue. I'm in the 3rd Ward. I'm opposed to the rezoning of 1112 Bridge. I request that you keep the zoning as is to keep our neighborhood moving in the direction that it's going right now. Most of my neighbors that are here have worked so hard on their homes. I was one of the lucky ones. I moved into a home that's been a single family home in the same family since 1932. So, you know, I feel an obligation to preserve that home as well as, you know, keep an eye out for the rest of the neighborhood, and hopefully it can keep moving in the direction that it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address or ward, please.
Hi, I'm Scott Nelson. I live in the 5th Ward. My address is 1206 East 11th Street. It's directly across the street from the property in question, 1112 Bridge Avenue. And I'm not against affordable housing. I'm not against affordable housing across the street from me. If somebody was like, it's going to be a 2-bedroom house, maximum 4 people there, I'd be like, I don't care. Fine, works for me. 10 bedrooms, which I believe, according to Iowa law, you can have 2 people per bedroom, could be 10 to 20 people in that area. That to me is an oversaturation. That's a tipping point. That, as they said, we're moving in a direction where things are starting to stabilize in that area. And I think that I think it would deter people from investing. We have, from me, about 2 or 3 blocks from me, there's a house for sale for about $290,000 that I understand needs a lot of work, and it's a historical home, I believe. I think that might possibly deter someone, knowing that there could be the slippery slope, because if they change this to RMF, could I turn around and be like, well, can I change my property to RMF and put maybe a quadplex there? So, yeah, I'm not against affordable housing. I just think changing this is too much. I think it's overkill, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name and address or ward, please.
My name is Jim Richardson. I am the current Property Committee Chair of Ecumenical Housing Development Group. Ecumenical Housing Development Group has an address of 1016 West 7th Street. We have a P.O. box in Bettendorf. I am also past president of the organization. Last week at the City Council meeting, prior comments of mine made at the last Committee of the Whole meeting were misstated, and I'd like to clarify that for the record. It was stated that we were not aware of the current zoning of the property, which is R4C, and that is not correct. We were aware of the zoning. And I believe my response to the question also said that we did not think it would be a big issue to change it to RMF, since we were only asking to build 1 additional unit that is over and above what is currently allowed under the current zoning. Obviously, I was incorrect. But I would like to review with council how we got to this point where we are actually requesting this change. Ecumenical Housing Development Group is a not-for-profit landlord with limited resources. In order to do a project, a major renovation project, we need to seek grant funds or seek other programs like the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, or apply for home funds, which we have done for other prior projects. Specific to this property and those that we purchased from the city of Davenport, we were looking for a way to renovate a substantial number of properties, not just 1112 Bridge, and to bring these properties to a like-new status. By doing that, it eliminates a lot of future maintenance expenses in the future, and so then you can operate more efficiently. The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program is specifically designed to provide these types of needed funds to renovate the properties. The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program is a competitive process. The Iowa Finance Authority reviews applications and awards projects based on accumulated points, which are given to address community needs as it relates to affordable housing. Applicants receive more points for more units, more 4-bedroom units, and handicap accessible units. The application to the Iowa Finance Authority was due on May 18th of 2022. We needed to show that we either owned or controlled the properties at the time of the application submission. Control was defined as being under contract for purchase. And we were under contract for purchase of 24 of the 42 units of scattered sites that were being offered for sale by the city of Davenport. And we were also under contract with Family Resources for the subject property. Within the application to the Iowa Finance Authority, we proposed that the subject property be renovated into 2 4-bedroom units and 1 2-bedroom unit. We proposed this because of the existing size of this subject building and the fact that it was all on one level with no basement, which accommodates 3 handicapped accessible units. We were awarded the tax credits from the Iowa Finance Authority on August 31st, 2022, and subsequently closed with the city of Davenport on the purchase of the 24 units on September 28th, 2022. The Iowa Finance Authority required that all units that were part of the application to be owned before September 30th, 2022. And we closed on the subject property with Family Resources on June 21st, 2022. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today. I hope you appreciate that history. I would also like to make a comment about the neighborhood letter that is attached as part of the package for today's meeting. There are a number of misstatements in that letter, and I'd like to point out only one of those, and that was in the second sentence, the neighborhood rights. Is that my time? I appreciate your consideration, and thank you.
State your name and address or ward, please.
Ron Swiner, Davenport, Eldridge, Ottumwa. I've sat and listened to this, and I'm just astonished we're even thinking about opening Pandora's box. We've had organizations in here wanting to change their own land, but to say it's only 1, next time it's 2, or it's 1 here, 1 there. The city spent a lot of money. I've worked for low income and economical housing programs before. They're great. But for any organization to say, well, I got funding, we need this as 3, is just mind-blowing. If we don't have the proper zoning, why are you even trying to get finance for this property? And expect the city, well, I got a multi-million-dollar deal here. If you don't approve it, we're in trouble. that don't smell right. I'm sorry, it doesn't. How should the people from that neighborhood who have poured blood, sweat, tears, and tens of thousands of dollars into a neighborhood they're stabilizing, and now you're going to change it again? Well, do you want to open Pandora's box? It's a slippery slope. I think not, but you're the council. The people have spoken here. Just like other times people have spoken, you chose to either accept what they say or ignore what they say. That's up to you. But the big thing here is you have a very beautiful and stable neighborhood. I went and drove it. It's just gorgeous. Is one going to change it? Maybe, maybe not, but that's not why we put the zoning restrictions in. It's to stabilize the neighborhoods. And for someone to come in and say, well, I won't get my funding, or it affects my funding, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. And I don't think these people that live in the neighborhood should be penalized. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one, we'll go to Council, Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. I'm going to be offering an amendment not to vote on tonight, but to vote on next week. I'm going to be offering it to the council. I'll be reading that in a minute. So I would ask if you would come back to me in case there's people with other comments, and then I have some comments as well. So thank you for this first bite.
Alderman Cornett.
Thank you, Mr. Grip. I look at this and I'm all for low-income housing and stuff, but I think that the disregard of ecumenical housing of our zoning regulations is pretty brazen. They're betting this whole project on getting 2 4-bedroom houses, or apartments that are handicapped in okay, great. But they should have thought of this before, that the city has rezoned, planned all this stuff, and they just think, well, oh, we can just get a variance for this one. Oh, it's only one more thing. If your whole plan hinges on that one building or that one rezoning thing, I think they just misjudged or shouldn't have submitted it. So I don't agree that it should be changed to multifamily, and I'm going to support that stand. So thank you very much.
Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. Sorry, a little under the weather. Thank you. So my question is, I haven't been on council but a year. So where was all this when the neighborhoods that are very close to us, is it Pershing and 6th Street, all that remodel? What about that brand new mausoleum that Palmer just built on like 12th and Pershing? I didn't see the outpour from the community. They had to rezone to do all that stuff. And those neighborhoods are within walking distance from us. So I just struggle with, in the words of some of my colleagues, change for the better of the good sometimes. But once again, if we're talking about community, and we always talk about how great our policing is, and we talk about, we have all these things that we say. Unfortunately, they have to tie together when you do changes like this, because if something happens, it's going to happen whether it's a duplex, a triplex, it's going to happen on Bridge, it's going to happen on Kirkwood, I have On Esplanade, I've had 5 cars stolen out of my neighborhood because they're Kia and Hyundais. And if anybody knows about that, those cars are easy to steal right now. So it's a lot. It is a lot more than just saying what you guys don't want in your neighborhood, because I get it. I'm a part of that neighborhood. I get it 100%. But I just don't get the pushback on 1 extra unit. I don't, because that apartment building that he was talking about, that's the brick apartment building, that's pretty rough still. You haven't changed all of that. So I get it, but I see these things as I drive the 5th Ward on a daily basis. So I'm torn, and so I don't get the devastation of the neighborhood. I don't know. Thank you for letting me speak. Like I said, I'm a little under the weather, so if that sounded like a ramble, but I'm stuck.
Alderwoman McGinnis, do you want to go now, or we got somebody else who hasn't made first comment? Alderwoman McGinnis, or Dick, sorry.
I guess it's kind of appropriate that Alderman Kelly spoke first. I guess I'm also similarly confused, because a lot of the slippery slope things that I've heard said, I think in pretty much every comment, you know, and the uses that you wouldn't want to live across. Ironically, I'm 98% certain, and I guess legal can correct me if I am wrong, but someone could buy the house with full intention of using it as an in-home daycare, and then use that as that use because it's not a facility, which is likely what will happen due to the scale of the house and the amount of work that it needs, because otherwise the nonprofit wouldn't need all these extra tax credits just to make it viable. I guess that will be my last comment, unless legal has something to correct me.
Alderwoman Lee.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to clarify that this was never a one-family residence. This is a building that's been used for adult daycare. It was never changed from a house. It's a building. And at the beginning when I came on, when the city was looking at disposing of the scattered housing, I had half the units in my ward, in 8th Ward. And I worked very closely with Bruce Berger to make sure that those buildings weren't flipped into just properties, rentals, that they were retained for low income and the type of people that are already living there. I met every one of them. One of the people I met, a wonderful disabled woman, would have the opportunity to live in this building. That would make it much easier for her to thrive. We're not talking about changing this. You know, I understand about the number of bedrooms, but it comes down to it's going to be for disabled people that need the support, that will be done, that will be rented by an organization that has been proven responsible. And I think this is a very valid use of this building. I'm looking forward to hearing Alderman McGinnis's amendment, which I think will address some of the issues. But I think that being able to support and get the money to fix this building up for the use by disabled people is a very important thing in the city, and I will support the rezoning. And I understand why it has to go from 2 to 3, because it goes back to the points that they need in order to get financial support, in order to fix this building up to what it needs to be, to make it from a daycare basically for adults to living units for disabled people. So I appreciate the neighbors, I appreciate their concerns. But again, I'm looking forward to the amendment from Alderman McGinnis, and I think this is an important process that we're going through. Thank you.
Alderwoman McGinnis. Alderman Kelly.
I'm sorry, I forgot something. So can I ask Mr. Richardson a question? What is the square footage of that building?
Sir, can you, so you're on the record, come up to the
Sorry.
lectern. That's okay.
I believe it's 3,640-ish.
Okay. So my point being with that, so if anybody knows, when they build duplexes, AKA side-by-sides today, so 1,500 square feet, that's not affordable housing. People are paying $200,000-$300,000 to live in that. Am I wrong, Mr. Condon? So I'm just saying, how is that affordable? And then when you guys said our neighborhood, where's the city accepting of this? I'm sorry, y'all have to bear with me. It's all coming to me now. Where's the city accepting besides 3rd and 5th Ward? Somebody suggested the open, that they're gonna be doing the bill. They're not gonna put affordable housing out there. That's nice, it would be nice, but that's not gonna happen. They want them tax dollars. So with that being said, they're not gonna put affordable housing out by Welcome, whatever, I don't recall what the comment was. I should have wrote that piece down. So those are just some things that I also want people to take into consideration. I get it that we have a lot of things that are going on in the 3rd and 5th Ward, but where else in the city are you gonna see this money be put in? It's not gonna happen. Thank you, Sam.
Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of comments first before I'm going to talk also to our attorney here. I want to thank the neighbors for coming to these meetings and being diligent and being good students of the history of the neighborhood, the history of our zoning process, taking the time to really look at it and learn about it and present that to us, because I think sometimes even as a council, we don't always remember that. But when I know from experience, when you're dealing with a change and you're concerned that, the way you learn about that is by studying it, and you all have done that, and also tracking the history of how many of these properties have been converted back to single family. I would also like to just make the comment that I heard, and Mr. Richardson, if you could come up, I don't want to debate with you, but I did have another question to ask you. If you could, please. So when I asked you the question, did you know the zoning of this property? You said you didn't. That's what you said. That was what I heard from you. What you said tonight is you did know. And so if you did know, that's fine. I'll accept that you did know what the zoning was. But I guess the question is, if you did know, the presumption of planning for more than what is allowed in that is problematic. That's a statement by me. So you don't have to answer that, but I guess, you knew you had a contract. You knew, you were telling me, I think tonight you said you knew what the zoning was, so why would you ask for more? And it's not like this just happened last week, I guess, is what I'm saying, or it happened in November when you came before the planning and zoning, and you don't have to answer that if you don't wish to. I also would ask, you had mentioned that there was another property that you have gotten in the process of this, that you are turning from a duplex to a single-family home. And I'm just asking tonight, would that be an appropriate property to keep as a duplex, make one of those units affordable and make this a duplex? Then we wouldn't have to be standing here having this discussion. Is that possible?
That property that you're referring to is 1031, 1031 and a half West 6th Street. It's currently an up-down duplex.
Okay.
The plan is to make that one of the 4-bedroom units for a single family. And so that's the reason why that's being converted and downsized from a duplex, 2 units, to a single-family 4-bedroom unit. And again, significant dollars are going into that property in order to do that. That's a property that Ecumenical Housing Development Group owns already within its portfolio.
But given the process of this, and you've been hearing from neighbors since early December, the zoning meeting, the planning and zoning meeting, have you given any consideration to taking a look at that and a change in that?
We believe that 1031, 1031 and a half, its highest and best use would be as a single-family home with 4 bedrooms.
Did you consider the highest and best use for the neighborhood for the property on Bridge that you're asking us for rezoning?
We believe that the highest and best use for that property is a 3-unit, 2 4-bedroom units and 1 2-bedroom unit.
And do you believe that's the best for the neighborhood after these people?
Based upon the investment that we're making and the management that we provide our properties, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. For the neighbors, this is, just so everybody understands, the way this process works is people speak. If you're asked to come forward, you speak again, but it's not a back and forth. So just, that's the way it's always done. I know it can be very frustrating, but that is our process. So just to let you know as well. Attorney Warner, if you could, you and I have had a lot of conversations also with Ms. Berkeley in our planning department. I had reached out to you this week and asked about what would be the least legal risk here. I've had requests to keep it R4C and have 3 units. That's been a request that's come to many of us on council this week. And you were concerned about that. Can you talk a little bit about that, please, for us here tonight?
Sure, thank you. I believe I described the process of leaving it R4C and adding an extra unit as legally murky. Okay. Is what I told you. It's much clearer, a much clearer path legally to take a property with this many uses and take some away, as opposed to trying to take a property and add extra uses above the legal cap. So it's much better legally to change the zoning to multifamily, in my opinion, and then restrict it down.
And when you say legally murky, can you explain to everybody, if it doesn't end here, where it goes, maybe? That might make it murky legally?
Of course. The petitioner always has the ability, if they're unhappy with the ultimate decision here, of challenging it in court.
And what happens when people do that sometimes to other properties? The effect of a ruling, what can that have on the city?
Well, it shapes the way we treat other properties in the future, other rezonings. It has the effect, if it looks like Davenport is doing odd things, that harms us in other cases going forward with the courthouse. They probably wouldn't admit that, but it would seep into their thinking in future cases involving Davenport.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to present an amendment now that I'm not asking this council to vote on tonight, but to consider. We will certainly be sharing this. It'll be available for people to see, and to ask them to think about it and vote on it next week and, get feedback to it. I will tell you right now, I don't like having to offer this amendment. I don't like being in this position. I don't like anything that makes our zoning questionable. The city has zoned itself in a way to try to stabilize, as one of the neighbors talked about. The point of the R4C zoning was to protect and preserve neighborhoods that had been really allowed to deteriorate, and partly through the kind of zoning that this other city staff and other councils had allowed through the years. And so we take this very seriously, and I do not like being here tonight to do this, but I'm going to offer this. And so I'm going to read it now. And basically, this is a motion with two conditions that there will never be more than 3 units at this property, and and also conditions that tie to if this particular building is raised or damaged in any way, what will happen. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the amendment now. The amendment will, as I'm proposing it now, will read, Condition 1, the number of dwelling units for the property. The subject property is capped at 3 dwelling units total. For clarity, future subdivision of the property will not result in any increase to this original total. That is, the parcel will not result in any increase to this original total. It shall always be an aggregate total of 3, regardless of how the underlying property is divided. Additional Condition 2, if the existing structure is raised or demolished, or in the event that the existing structure is damaged or is destroyed intentionally, accidentally, or by neglect to the extent of 50% or more of its assessed value, then the structure may only be restored or rebuilt to be a single-family dwelling or a 2-family duplex dwelling. If the existing structure is damaged or destroyed intentionally, accidentally, or by neglect to the extent of less than 50% of its assessed value, it may be repaired and reconstructed, provided that the 3 dwelling unit cap is not exceeded. A building permit must be obtained for such rebuilding, restoration, repair, or reconstruction within 1 year of the date of damage or destruction. In the event that the building permit is not obtained within 1 year, then the rules pertaining to damage or destruction of 50% or more shall apply moving forward. And that means basically you go back to condition number 2. So that's what I'm offering. I don't know if we need to accept this amendment in, or because we're not voting on it tonight. And if you could clarify, Attorney Warner, for me.
I would just request that it stay on discussion for next week so that you can offer the amendment and put it up to a vote at that time.
Okay. Ask that be kept on discussion.
Alderman Condon?
If I may, wanted to applaud Alderwoman McGinnis's amendment because I think it cuts to the heart of the issue. I think many of the neighbors would volunteer that what they love about their neighborhood is that it's so historic, eclectic, and diverse, but simultaneously need to guard themselves from being the path of least resistance for some of the more dense developments that happen to be serving the low-income community. So I think it speaks to that. It allows the neighborhood to accommodate a good organization trying to make a good thing happen in a building that is set up for it, but recognizes what this community has here. And well, for now, I'll leave it at that. I think it gets right to the heart of it, and I applaud you for bringing that forward.
All right, seeing no one else, I do have a few questions to wrap up the conversation before we move on. I've got 2 questions for Mr. Warner and then 2 questions for Laura. So I want to address a couple of things I heard in the public comments that are always concerning, need to be addressed. So the first was term spot zoning came up. So that's always concerning to the council because that's how a city can get itself into legal trouble with rezoning. Have you evaluated this proposed rezoning for spot zoning, and what's your opinion on that?
I haven't looked specifically at that question. From what I know of the rezoning in my conversations with Laura, it's not anything that concerns me, which means why I haven't looked any further into it. So it's not a concern.
Okay. And then my second question for you is something I heard was that the property owner could just request that the conditions be dropped from the zoning, and then they could add units up to 13 or 14, whatever the max is. Can you explain how you would take away conditions that are part of a rezoning, and how is it similar or dissimilar to going through the rezoning process?
This is another thing that I've spoke to Laura about, and essentially the current zoning and the size of the property would lend itself to some of the exact same things that I've heard the residents express fears about, where there's actually more, you could end up with more dwelling units than just the 3 that are being requested. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were asking.
No. Laura might have the answer.
Laura Berkeley, Development Neighborhood Services. I think what you're asking is if this rezoning goes through and someone wishes to remove the conditions on that rezoning, how would they do so?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the exact same process as a rezoning. The council should be familiar with that related to the property on 53rd at the city limits with Bettendorf that had been rezoned with conditions that made it infeasible to develop. They go through the exact same rezoning process with the public notice, and it would be through council through the 3 considerations.
Okay. And so I'll get right into my questions for you. So one of the issues over the decades that our heritage neighborhoods have faced is there are these large houses, single-family homes that were chopped up and made into 3-family, 4-family, 6-family homes. What are the steps that the city's taken over the years to kind of prevent that or reverse that trend?
So the main one that I know about is zoning related, is making them legal non-conforming. And that the neighborhood has spoken to that in their experience. They bought homes that the zoning's for single or 2-family homes, and they want to take it down, which means then they can't replace it back with multifamily. So that's the main tool we have in terms of zoning in order to make that happen.
Okay. And it's been stated, but in the zoning code update, so now in these neighborhoods, if you want to come in and take a large house and break it up into multifamily, is that allowed?
So if the home zoned residential if it's zoned the R4C.
R4C, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So about a year and a half ago, City Council did a zoning update to remove 2-family conversion as a potential option in the R3C, R4, and R4C zoning districts, which means that a single-family home stays a single-family home. And that's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since we implemented that, have you received any requests to do that?
Yes.
And what is the response from the city staff?
We tell them no, and that they can't do that. Sometimes they argue, well, it was set up to be, I always said, you didn't do your building permit, so it's not legally done. Those are hard conversations to have, but we stay firm on them, and we cannot issue building permits to convert them into 2-family units. Sometimes they ask, well, how can I make it happen? And say, well, what, can I rezone it commercial? Can I rezone it to multifamily? To which we have to say, we will accept your application, however, staff will recommend denial because you are trying to circumvent the intent of the code.
Okay. And typically I don't think I've seen one brought forward
Correct.
Recently.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, then what makes this case different from a staff perspective?
Sure. Largely, it's existing use. So Alderwoman Lee mentioned it. It was originally constructed as a group home. A group home is 9 beds. That's what it was constructed for, with somebody there, and it was regulated by the state. It was then converted into a daycare, which is now not a legal use in that zoning district. So we have a legal non-conforming use. So it is basically a commercial build. It is a sprinklered building. It has never been a single-family home, which had a large impact on how we reviewed the case related to the approval standards.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's all the questions I have. Thank you. So, just a comment, and then I'll let Alderwoman Dickman have a second turn before we end the conversation. So I was one of the council liaisons when we did the zoning code update, myself along with Alderwoman Rawson at the time, and we worked closely with Alderwoman McGinnis. And I do understand the importance of that C designation in making sure that we maintain the integrity of these very important neighborhoods. And I also wanted to thank the residents who have come down here, and Mr. Yates, the package that you gave, that last page is pretty incredible, and I hope my colleagues take a pretty good look at that, of how many homes that were broken down into multifamily rentals that were restored back to single family within that neighborhood is really incredible. And many of you who are sitting here because that was through your efforts. So I do thank you for that. I do think we need to understand the precedent is important to the neighborhood, and we want to make sure that we're not setting a precedent that we undo all of the stuff that we just spent a long time trying to do. I don't think that we are, and I think the designation that Laura just made, which is this is not a single family home being broken up into multifamily units. It's never been a single family home. Maybe it could be, but it probably wouldn't be. So I don't think we're setting precedent, and look forward to more conversation next week. Alderwoman Dickman.
I appreciate the second turn. I'll try to be quick here. I do want to make sure that there is a clear understanding that and I can be corrected again if I'm wrong, that if this reapproval is not granted, that the project then becomes economically unviable, and that presumably they would sell the building, and so it will then likely either become another applicant who probably is not going to come in saying, hey, can we do something that seems small and sensible under the context under which it was explained. I'm concerned that if we don't do the rezoning, that when we have a property that is great for reinvestment and can take advantage of those tax credits, and investors are going to say, you know what, we're just going to let that one sit there until we have to demolish it, or somebody turns it into a less regulated daycare, or has to rezone it to become a group home or something that is obviously not desired by the neighborhood, that they wanted to see it not go into a more commercial use. They want it to be a more gentle residential use, and presumably not every single bedroom will contain the maximum of occupants. So hopefully the amendment proposed can find a nice middle ground so everyone feels we're keeping precedent and doing something good for everyone.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dickman. I'm going to let Mayor Mattson speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple comments of listening. So, been doing this a long time, and there are a lot of good comments here and a lot of good observations. That's why I like this council, that they take serious what the neighbors say and different folks say and staff, and mix it together for the best. So first, I appreciate everybody's discussion. I appreciate the neighbors, ecumenical housing, everybody. A while ago, and I, again, been doing this a long time, we used to have folks, landlords or whoever, would take buildings, and there are places in the city that I can name off the top of my head in many parts of the city, take single-family homes and make them multiple things. Multiple bedrooms, divide up, put partitions, and it was a huge concern around here. That's why we did the rezoning. A concerted effort to make sure that neighborhoods were looked out for, because there were places not far from here, but all places of the city, I can count, of the 8 wards, certainly 7 wards that had multiple of this, where people were just dividing it up, and it was bad. So the zoning thing is important. Having said that, We asked for infill, we asked for refurbishation, we have the Dream, we have Dream Plus, we have the third Dream, and we asked to take places that are needing of assistance and helping and do that. Zoning is always what the council says it is, but the concerted effort in 2019 that was done by this city, by folks up here, folks out there, over months and months of meetings, and some of the meetings had, and Alderman McGinnis might correct me, hundreds of people at them concerning zoning was a big deal. So anytime we talk about zoning, especially change it, and some people have mentioned it, it is huge because if people who remember this process that we did, probably no other cities experienced it because of what was happening. Having said that again, I think your amendment's appropriate. So thank you for letting me talk.
This item will remain on discussion for next week, and we will go to item number 4, which is a resolution approving case F22-15, being the request of Sam's on behalf of Peterson Properties LC for a final plat of North Welcome Way subdivision, 3rd edition, a 2-lot subdivision on 13.79 acres located on Brady Street south of East 90th Street. Is there anyone from the public who's here to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? All right, this item will move on. Item number 5 is a resolution approving case F23-01, being the request of Traver Properties LLC for a final plat of Traver Oaks, a 3-lot subdivision on 41 acres located at the southwest corner of 145th Street and 110th Avenue in unincorporated Scott County. Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? This item will move on. Alderwoman Lee, will you please set our agenda?
Thank you very much. I move that items 1, 2, and 3 remain on the discussion agenda, and 4 and 5 be placed on the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, that concludes community development, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Griffin, Alderwoman Lee. Next area is public safety. Alderwoman Dickman will discuss, and then she'll assign someone to decide on consent. Alderwoman Dickman, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. First item tonight is second consideration of ordinance amending Chapter 10.96 entitled Schedules of the Municipal Code of Davenport, Iowa by amending Schedule 5, 4-way stop intersections thereto by adding Lombard Street at Gibbons Avenue, Ward 4. The second, any public with comment? Council? That item will move on. The second item is a first consideration of ordinance amending Schedule 14 of intersection traffic signals of Chapter 10.96 entitled Schedules of the Municipal Code of Davenport, Iowa by adding 3 intersections thereto. It's Ward 2 and 6. Any public? Council? That item will move on. Item 3 is a resolution approving street, lane, or public ground closures for the listed dates and times. First one is Center for Active Seniors, Inc., 41st Annual St. Patrick's Day Race, downtown, 5 a.m. to 12 p.m., Saturday, March 18th, 2023. Closures from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. on 2nd Street from Harrison Street to Brady Street. From 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., 2nd Street from Harrison Street to Ripley Street. 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., 2 westernmost travel lanes and parking lane on Brady from 2nd to 3rd, 3rd Street from Brady Street to Gaines Street. 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., 3rd Street from Gaines Street to Division Street. 9:50 a.m. to 10:10 a.m., all lanes of Brady Street from River Drive to 3rd Street. Also, the St. Patrick's Society Grand Parade, 37 downtown, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., Saturday, March 18th, 2023. Closures, Gaines Street from the Centennial Bridge to 3rd Street from Gaines Street to the River Center where the parade disbands. Any public? Any council? There's a lot to read there. Item 4 is a motion approving noise variance requests on the listed dates and times for an outdoor event. The St. Patrick's Day Society Grand Parade 37 Downtown Sea Parade Route, March 18th, 2023, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Outdoor music performances over 50 dBA. Any public? Any council? That item will move on. Number 5 is our motion for beer and liquor licenses. The new licenses are as follows: new owner, temporary permit, temporary outdoor area, location transfer, etc. Ward 1, Brew 64 at 3624 West Locust Street, new license, new owner, license type B, retail. In Ward 4, Brew 59, 1732 Marquette Street, new license / owner, license type B, retail. Brew 69, 303 West Locust Street, new license owner / owner, license type B, retail. Ward 5, Brew 61, 2242 East 12th Street, new license / owner, license type B, retail. Brady Mart, 3107 Brady Street, new license owner, license type CE, retail. License class E, retail. Ward 6, L Campita, 1720 East Kimberly Road, new license / owner, license type C, retail. Ward 7, Brew 65, 201 West 53rd Street, new license / owner, license type B, retail. Brew 66, 1670 West Kimberly Road, new license / owner, license type Class B, retail. And then we have our annual license, which I will not read. Any comment from the public? Any comments from council? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that all items be placed on the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
The item has been moved in second, or, yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dickman. The next area is Public Works. Alderman Dunn and Alderman Kelly will discuss. Alderman Dunn, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item number 1 is a resolution accepting work completed on the City Hall exterior repair project by State Masonry in the amount of $539,533.50. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 2 is a resolution accepting work completed under the partial roof replacement at Public Works project by White Roofing in the amount of $583,566.84. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 3 is a resolution accepting work completed under the CY 2022 ADA Ramp Program project by Centennial Contractors in the amount of $263,247.58. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 4 is a resolution adopting the final assessment schedule for the FY 2022 alley resurfacing program in accordance with the alley cost share program and amending, confirming, and levying the assessments. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 5 is a resolution awarding a contract for the 2023 nuisance mowing services with Quad City Lawn and Landscape as the primary provider and Oak Maker Design as the backup provider. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. And item number 6 is a motion approving the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan for the Davenport Transit as required by the Federal Transit Administration. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. And Alderman Kelly, would you set the agenda for us, please?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to move all 6 items to consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. The agenda is set, and back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn and Alderman Kelly. The next area and last area is Finance. Alderman Condon and Alderman Cornett will discuss. Alderman Condon, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 3 items on finance this evening. Item number 1 is a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the installation of multi-sports courts at Cork Hill, Harrington, and Van Buren Parks. CIP number ARP 10. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address item number 1? Council? Alderman Dunn.
Thank you. I'm just glad to see these projects are moving forward. I know the kids are looking forward to it, so thank you.
Yeah, a lot of input from the kids. Now make your kids go outside. Item number 2 is a resolution adopting the Internal Revenue Service mileage rate to reimburse employees for use of a personal vehicle for city business. Anyone from the public wishing to address item number 2? Council? Number 2, we'll move on. And item number 3 is a motion approving a 4-year collective bargaining agreement between the City of Davenport and the Davenport Association of Professional Firefighters, Local Number 17, for the term beginning July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2027. Anyone from the public wishing to address item number 3? Council? Mr. Mayor.
I just want to say thank you to our staff and the Davenport Fire Department and Local 17 for their good faith negotiation and working through this in a pretty quick manner and seeing our value that we put in our public safety folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Below, we have our purchases from $10,000 to $50,000. We won't read each of those individually, but they're listed there for your information. Alderman Cornett, would you please set our finance agenda?
I move that all items be placed on the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That concludes finance. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Condon and Alderman Cornett. The next area is, are there any other ordinances, resolutions, or motions? There are none for this evening. And the next item, is there any public with business other than what was discussed on the agenda already? Seeing none, any other reports, Ms. Spiegel? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Very good. Have a safe week and weekend.